listening to Game On DC, your home for local gaming and esports news in the DMV. Find the show on social media at Game On DC and by using the hashtag GoDC. Without further ado, here are your hosts, John and Joey.
What is up, DMV? Welcome to Game On DC, the show dedicated to you, the gamers and esports fanatics, right here in the East Coast capital of esports. My name is Fiasco. You can call me John, and I am joined by the Courtside King, aka Joey. Joey, it has been so long. Finally, Game On DC has returned, and what a time to be a DC esports fan.
Yeah, absolutely. So much going on. Washington Justice absolutely smashing it on Sunday. WizDG on a nice win streak as well. We have an MLS player, eMLS player rather, moving on to the eWorld Cup for FIFA. John, it is a great time to be a DC esports fan right now.
It is absolutely insane. And I'll be honest with you, DMV, if you've been with us from the start, about a year ago when we launched this show, a little over a year ago, actually, there was a little bit of a hiatus, Joey, and I feel like we need to address the elephant in the room here. There was a little bit of a hiatus. The pandemic was part of it when esports kind of shut down and no one was really doing anything. But we took that time. We reflected. We wanted to make some changes to the show going forward. We wanted to make this the premier esport show for the DMV. We want other cities to come to us and say, hey, we want to be able to do what you guys are doing in Dallas, in Chicago, in LA. We want this show to kind of be like that model. So we want to make this the best version of the show possible. So we spent a lot of time picking each other's brains, doing a lot of brainstorming, asking around the esports industry as well, seeing what we can do to make this show the best version of it can be. And Joey, I think we can report that we have some pretty awesome content coming up in the future and some things that we're planning for as well, adding to the show.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely a lot in the plans, and we're still working through things too, guys, and we want your opinion on things as well as we go forward. So just to jump in and a little bit more of what happened, we've had a couple gaming cafes reach out to us as well. We still plan on talking about local gaming events happening in the DMV. The big difference being when we initially started the show, we were talking about everything. So every single little gaming event that happened every single week we talked about on the show. We're going to jump more to the bigger stuff. So like your Triple Crown of the DMV, like Spring Summit, Winter Bash. We'll cover the bigger events happening here and there. We're not going to tell you every single weekend what is happening at every single gaming cafe. It just took too much time on the show, and we feel like we want to highlight the bigger events of those gaming cafes in addition to the esports.
Yeah, absolutely.
As far as the changes to the show, John, I think that's the next big thing to hit on here. And we've talked back and forth about it. One thing we want to bring you guys is interviews. The positions we're in, both with the Washington Justice as well as with Wizards District Gaming, with John commentating their games, kind of allow us to be in a unique position here, where we do have direct connections to the officials in those different organizations, as well as to DC United, as we've casted for them a number of times. So we're hoping to have people from the front office, possibility of players, coaches, all different aspects like that onto the show for interviews to answer your guys' questions here in chat, as well as for those podcast listeners down the line. I'm sure we'll use a hashtag on Twitter as well. But I think that's one of the things I'm most excited for, John.
Yeah, absolutely. The interview aspect, being able to give you guys that inside look into what's going on with the Washington Justice or with Wizards District Gaming or with our eMLS Pro and KingCJ for DC United. There's just so much going on here in the DMV when it comes to pro esport news and just events and players moving around and everything. And what a better way to get you more behind the scenes content than, us using our position that we have and getting those connections and bringing them here to you, the viewers and listeners here in the DMV. We're super excited to be bringing you some amazing content with these interviews. If you've watched any of the WizDG broadcasts, if you watch any of the official co-stream for the Washington Justice, a lot of the interviews that we, conduct on there, they hit at some really deep parts of the game. What's going on behind the scenes? What's going on in the current meta? If there's something going on behind the scenes, is there something that they can touch on? Maybe give us a little insight into why something's happening a certain way. And plus it's also another opportunity for you fans to interact with these pros in a different way outside of social media. Be alive in chat here, put questions in there, put responses in there. We keep an eye on chat and everything. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring this show live, was for those live interviews, those live reactions, those live interactions, with officials and with esport players here on the show. So, I mean, the content is going to be coming hot and heavy, and it's going to be absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, and I think one of the other things that we want to bring to you guys is fan content. So obviously there's a lot of fans out there for all these teams, whether you follow all the DMV teams, whether you just follow one or two of them. There's a number of fans out here involved in the esports scene, and the fans mean so much to these organizations as well to us here at Game on DC. We want to feature your content. So that's different things like art. We might do some kind of art featured contest later down the road. We're looking to, this is just a possibility. John and I would like to bring you guys on the show here and there as well. So whether that be pulling tweets from Twitter that we use a hashtag for, whether that be actually having you guys hop into voice calls to talk about your thoughts on what is going on with some of the teams or to celebrate the teams here on the show with us. So we're very open to different ideas there. And John, I'm sure you want to touch on that as well. But again, you guys are helping us form the show. This is John and I bringing some ideas to the table. We still want to hear your ideas, and we want to hear of these ideas all being presented from us as well as you guys, what you guys actually want to see this show become.
Yeah, for real. And to kind of give you an idea of what we ultimately want to be able to do here. If you take a look at sports talk radio, I know radio is a boomer term, but I'm gonna go ahead and throw it out there. Fans call in to give their opinion so their voices are heard. That's kind of the idea that we want to have here is have fans connect more directly with these interviews, with other fans in the area, being able to get your opinion out there on a different kind of medium, whether it's not just Instagram, not just Twitter, but it would be live here on a recorded show on Twitch, on a podcast as well. Put yourself out there, get your opinion on record. It's just another great way to interact with all the local fans here and also get your voices heard to the officials who may be tuning in every now and then to Game on DC as well. And also with those interactions with those player interviews too, another great way to interact there. So yeah, I mean, it's just a bigger way to engage with the overall audience, not just with us, but the audience in itself engaging as well. So we're thinking of a lot of different ways here to kind of bring more content to you and have your voices heard in the DMV.
Yeah, and we can have some fun stuff here and there too. Like we're going to try to, again, with Level Up, we talk about this all the time. We've made that show live as well, our particular gaming and esports show that kind of covers everything internationally too. One of the things is trying to drive live listenership to the Twitch page for that as well. With this, we're going to bring a few different twists because it is DC based. So we can do things like polls, for example, like what hero is Decay going to play first in next week's Overwatch League match? And we can throw polls up. We can have channel points. We can have contests. And they give out, I don't know, gift cards or Overwatch League tokens, different things like that. We're just going to have a lot of fun with this. So again, guys, it comes back to what you want to see this show become. We're more than willing to make changes and to make it happen accordingly. John, I'm excited that we're live, though, because one, we have the interviews. We have the ability to make fans a new highlight of the show, in a sense, by going live. And it just opens up so many doors down the road as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, when we were discussing the return of Game on DC, that was one of the first things that popped up. Was let's make this show live. There is nothing better than having a live show, having a live audience commenting in chat, being able to bring real life reactions to what's happening right now, what just happened a day or two before. In this case, the Washington Justice just finished up their first week in the Summer Showdown. The last game happened yesterday. You're going to get next day feedback, next day comments, next day breakdowns of what happened, plus a preview of what's coming up for the week ahead. It's going to be current and up to date, and that's what myself as a fan. That's kind of content I'm looking for, and hopefully for from your point of view, they're listening or watching at home. That's what you're looking for. Also, a lot of people have reached out to us saying live content is always great. Having that interaction, being able to ask those questions. Maybe you have a question about what happened against the Mayhem yesterday with the Justice. Now's a great time to do it. Not just because we're Washington Justice fans, but also because we're the co-streamers. Also, we're there watching the game, we're there doing research, we're there talking with the players and the management team. So we may have a different perspective on it for you, being in a unique position that we can kind of use our knowledge to answer your question and hopefully increase your fanship also for our local DMV team. So it's going to be really, really excited. So that's one of the reasons why we wanted to bring the show live to you.
Absolutely. So I think without further ado, the only thing I can think about mentioning here, again, guys, we're going to still be paying attention to the hashtag at GoDC or hashtag GoDC, however you want to pronounce it, as well as the Twitter handle at GoDC. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, shoot them to us over there. The last thing I can think about, John, to cover is the length of the episode. So one of the big things we're going to try to do with this episode or this show in general is to keep it around an easy to eat, easy to really devour type of content. Yeah, digest. That's the word. See, this is why we're co-hosts. Easy to digest type of content. Our other show, Level Up, can tend to go an hour to an hour and a half. We touch on a whole bunch of different things across the world. This is very DMV based. And while I'm sure we could go for hours on end, we want to make it available to listen to for all different lengths of time. So we're hoping to aim for somewhere around half an hour worth of a show. Now, when we eventually have people on for interviews, that's probably going to go a little bit longer for some of those episodes. Maybe we even break it down into an interview episode and then a regular recap type of episode. But just to give you guys a heads up, that's kind of what we're targeting moving forward.
Absolutely. So again, we're still going to offer the podcast version of the show as well. So for whatever reason you can't tune into live stream, the podcast version will be up the very next day. iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, and Stitcher. And pretty much wherever podcatchers, catch podcasts at, it's going to be there. It's going to go out on that universal feed, and it'll grab it there. So if you can't catch a live show, again, can't stress enough, you want to be here for the live show. That's going to be your best overall experience. Second best, the podcast is way to go. It's going to be great. You'll get the audio of everything that you see here today, and everything else. So, but again, can't stress enough. You want to be here, Twitch, Monday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern time for Game on DC. That's where you're going to get the best bang for your buck.
For this free show.
At least
bang
for this free show, yes, yeah.
So I think without further ado, we are ready to jump into some esports action. Take us away.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go ahead and start with the Washington Justice. And before we can even talk about the Washington Justice, we have to say a big happy birthday to Jerry. His birthday is today, the 5th of July. So coming off of a nice 3-0 sweep against the Florida Mayhem yesterday, Jerry gets to celebrate his birthday here. And there you can see the awesome tweet sent out there by the Washington Justice celebrating Jerry's birthday. Jerry Joey is a fan favorite, and rightfully so. He's an absolute character. He's a lot of fun. He has a lot of energy, and he's even a better Overwatch League player. Super excited that he's on the team. I'm excited that we get to call his games on the co-stream. He's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. And I thought there were just fireworks continuing from the 4th of July last night that went into 1, 2, 3 a.m., but maybe they were just celebrating Jerry after that point, after that midnight mark, continuing to send those off. But yeah, absolutely great player, phenomenal, especially on hit scan. His McCree immediately comes to mind, his ability to use the flashbang and really tap some heads on that from long distance as well. Some really good play there. His Widowmaker, not too shabby either. Again, very, very big hit scan player over there for the Justice.
Absolutely. So let's go ahead and just kind of recap where we are at right now with the Washington Justice. Currently, they're in the Summer Showdown. So we've already had 2 phases of the season already go by. Joey, in fact, there's been 12 weeks of Overwatch League gone by so far, with the 12th week ending yesterday on July 4th. So just real quick, go ahead and send it over to our Handy Dandy webpage real quick. So we'll start with the May Melee. It was a fantastic start for this Washington Justice team, going 4-0 to kick everything off. I mean, everything we saw in the offseason, all the hard work, all the dedication, all the hype in the Overwatch League community paid off. 4-0, that's exactly what we wanted to see. They had a map differential of +9, which was one of the highest at the time for the May Melee. There were no hero pools, so we got to see Decay on Tracer. We got to see Assassin pop heads on Sombra. It was absolutely fantastic. They go into the May Melee tournament. Unfortunately, it didn't end well for the Justice in that tournament, but still a 4-0 start to the season was definitely what we wanted to see here as Justice fans.
Yeah, absolutely. They got off to such a hot start, and there were question marks out there. Obviously, we had Decay coming over from last season, phenomenal player, but there were a number of other new players on the roster, a number of question marks as far as how the coaching staff is going to come out, how the players are going to come out. Is it going to take time for them to really get to know each other and perform in a team environment? I feel like the answer to this question is pretty early on here. Now, as the season has progressed, and we'll get into June a little bit, once hero bans became a thing, they did get a little bit shaky here and there, trying to figure out what worked best for the team in the new meta. And there were a couple of changes to the lineup. a couple changes to their hero selection, and in the end, some of those didn't work out, some of them did work out. But yeah, as far as hot starts go, there wasn't really many teams, if any, that had a better map differential than the Justice early on.
Yeah, I mean, again, after years of watching this Justice team, really come alive at the end of the season, but kind of struggle throughout the early and mid weeks of the season. It was really exciting to see this Justice team start off hot. 4-0 start, definitely the way to go. The May Melee was a lot of fun for Justice fans. Like, I mean, you could see the energy on social media from the Justice fans. Again, this was still during, the pandemic. There wasn't a lot of in-person events or anything going on right now at that time. So, it was a lot of online social media presence and Justice fans. I know you guys were happy about it. I saw the energy, I saw the tweets, I saw the content being put out there. It was really, really exciting. But, unfortunately, again, in that tournament phase, didn't go so hot. Then we'll go ahead and take a look at the June Joust here real quick, which was the last phase that we just got out of before the Summer Showdown. And this was the one that had a hero pool. And Joey, you and I are very anti-hero pool. We're not a big fan of the idea of the developer choosing bans for the players. We've been on record multiple times stating that we would like to see the players choose bans if you're going to go down this route. But nonetheless, Blizzard still is doing this thing where they pick the heroes to be banned, which is, that's the way they want to run it. That's the way we have to deal with it. And it was Tracer, Sombra, Reinhardt, and Zenyatta banned out for the June Joust. And that had a major impact. The Justice on the very first week for the June Joust, it was like 2 or 3 days after the announcement of those hero bans, had to come out and find some way to figure out what the meta was. And they struggled. They went 0-2 that week. It was not a pretty week. The June Joust just wasn't pretty overall. Their second week in the June Joust, they only went 1-1 with a 1-3 record for the June Joust. It was very opposite of what we were used to seeing for this Washington Justice team. They had a -4 map differential, and it was rough. They finished in 8th place in the West. They did not qualify for the knockout phase for the June Joust. And there were a lot of question marks because that first week, Decay did not play, mainly due to those hero bans. They wanted to try something out. We touched on it on the co-streams here, that they do what's best for the team. The players are very unselfish. They want to do what's best for the team, what puts them in a position to win. And if that means Decay doesn't feel comfortable on a certain hero that's currently available because his best heroes are banned out, then they're going to swap them out. And that's what they tried in the first week of the June Joust. It didn't work out. A lot of people were not happy about it. I understand. But you also have to understand from a competitive standpoint, they have to do what's best for the team based upon their scrims and their conversations. So that was the big highlight, if you will, moment of the June Joust for the Justice.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing, and you hit on it right there toward the end, is the fact that they're playing as a team. So the players are buying into what the coaches are saying. The coaches are coming up with a strategy alongside those players, and then from there, they move forward. In that particular week, they decided that it was going to be Assassin and Jerry. They both performed well, don't get me wrong. I think they both performed quite well as DPS players. In the end, the team as a whole just seemed to be slightly off target of what they're trying to accomplish that week, falling to the Paris Eternal and then the Boston Uprising. But they did turn things around, John. They got comfortable. We saw a couple cool things emerge, one of those being Assassin's Echo. Assassin's Echo looking phenomenal this past weekend and really looking good even back then when we eventually did see the team adapt to those new bans. The other one is Fury Sigma. Fury Sigma came out with these bans as well, and it has looked phenomenal too. We saw Fury playing a lot of Diva, a little bit of Zarya before that as well. Now playing a lot more Sigma on quite a few of these maps, and it has been phenomenal. I believe he even took Player of the Series on Sunday as well. So it's cool. I don't like the bans because they're bans that I think they limit it in the way that they're league-wide as opposed to kind of matchup-specific to bring a bit more strategy to the table. With that being said, in the end, it did hurt us a little bit for that 1 week. But after that, we were able to really pull it together, make the adaptations we needed, and get the job done. We did end up looking quite good in that particular week. We 3-0'd the Florida Mayhem, and then we ended up going up against the San Francisco Shock, taking it to a final point on Busan, and unfortunately losing it 3-2 up against the former champions. You can't go home sad with that, though. It's a loss, yes, in the end, but you're pushing the former champions 1 week after a very, very rough week, or a couple weeks rather. It was a huge turnaround, and it just shows what this team is capable of, the talent and depth of this roster, as well as the coaching staff, how they can adapt from week to week, how they can prepare for the matches ahead. And we saw it even this past weekend. They looked a bit rougher coming into Friday's match. It wasn't quite what we were expecting. Then on Sunday, they looked so much cleaner. They came out and really brought it to the Mayhem and got the job done.
Absolutely. And before we break down those matchups here real quick, I just want to throw up the current overall standings for the season. Justice in 5th place with a 6-4 record. Now, why is this important? Well, to qualify for the playoffs, the top 3 teams in the Western Conference automatically qualify for the playoffs. Everyone else has to go into a playoff knockout bracket to qualify for the playoffs. So right now, the Justice sitting at 5th place. They are 3 games out of that 3rd spot. This currently held by the San Francisco Shock. That same team that Joey just mentioned back in the June Joust, we took to map 5 to the very final point at the end, made the Shock work for it. I feel like the Shock going up against the Justice in a non-hero ban situation, the Justice may have a better chance at knocking down the Shock. The Shock are not perfect. By any means, they're not perfect. Yes, a 9-3 record is very impressive, but they're not perfect by any means, and the Justice can definitely exploit them. So only 3 games out, still plenty of Overwatch League to play. But, picking up wins like yesterday against the Mayhem is definitely, to your advantage in trying to regain those spots in the standings. You pretty much have to play catch up with the Shock. The Fuel and the Outlaws, they're playing out of their minds also. They're going to be a little bit tougher to catch. So you want to eyeball that 3rd spot. Again, if you don't get it, you can still qualify for the playoffs. But if you can get an automatic bid, that is so much, that is such a big advantage. Then have to go through a mini tournament to qualify. So that should definitely be one of their goals in the Summer Showdown, is not just to qualify for the knockouts for the Summer Showdown, but for the postseason as well in the overall standings.
Absolutely. And one of those other teams you didn't highlight it as much is the LA Gladiators. And that is a team we are facing next week, which we'll touch on as well as the show goes on. That is going to be another big key matchup for them, being right 1 spot behind the LA Gladiators, with playoffs being so close coming into the end of the season. That is definitely going to be a key matchup for the Justice as well.
Absolutely. So let's go ahead and take a look at the first week here of the Summer Showdown for the Justice. They went up against the Atlanta Reign. It didn't end the way we all expected it. 3-0, like we don't expect this team to get 3-0'd. We just with the talent on this roster, kind of took a lot of people off guard. And it was a very tough series. Atlanta came out, they were very aggressive, and they used that to their advantage. It felt like the Justice were caught off guard a little bit, and they weren't able to kind of recover in time. So they end up dropping the first map in Busan. Then it looks like Junkertown map 2, and then Volskaya map 3 is a straight 3-0 loss there, unfortunately, for the Justice. The only thing to highlight here, Joey, and I'm highlighting it for a specific reason because of when we come up to yesterday's match, Junkertown and Escort maps have seemed to be an issue for this Justice team. It's a mode that, for whatever reason, pun intended, they just can't seem to get it going. They come out of their spawn. They're able to push the cart a little bit, but like in Junkertown, they couldn't get out of that starting village area. It was very difficult. The one time they did, they were unable to get back to it, and the Reign ended up pushing the cart all the way back into that village. It just felt like nothing that they could do would get the Reign off of the payload long enough that they could get to that first checkpoint. And that's not the first time we've seen it, and it's not just going up against a Reign thing. It's other teams have held the Justice back also. It's one of those things where it just comes down to a play style and communication. That's the best way to try to fix this error. But unfortunately, on Junkertown against Atlanta, it just didn't happen.
Yeah, escort maps have definitely been our weakest mode so far this season, and I think even further than that, Junkertown, I would argue, has probably been our best, or our worst map, rather. Yeah. I don't think we've touched the first checkpoint a single time this season. It is just a very difficult map for us. We had a really good starting push here, but in the end, just not able to get it done. We got stopped right at the door, right before the checkpoint was hit. It's just escort match have been a struggle. As you mentioned on Sunday, we started to turn that struggle around a bit, and we're starting from the bottom and coming up on those particular maps. We look really strong on control. We look really strong on double cap maps. So in the end, it's finding the way to work our way through escort maps and Junkertown as well. This time, just not quite there in the end. I think a couple other things to highlight here. I was not a fan of Decay on Symmetra. Decay is a phenomenal player. I don't feel like Symmetra was really unlocking his potential in that matchup. Had we seen him on something like a Tracer, I'm not going to say we're going to guarantee a win, but I think we would have seen a little bit more back and forth on a couple of these maps. The other thing is credit to the opposing team. Gator, the main tank over there on the Atlanta Reign, absolutely phenomenal Reinhardt play on that matchup. All day long, he was playing super aggressive, able to get some really great ultimates down, able to rush forward very effectively, always finding good shield timing, and Pelican as well. Pelican with some really good flanks coming out. Those two together, I'm not saying they carried the team completely, but Gator definitely set the pace as far as aggression, and Pelican found a great way to pick off supports as well as DPS players from off to the side. That ended up being a huge difference maker throughout the matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, credit to the Reign. They played out of their mind, and that shouldn't be taken away. It was a very strong team performance. But, you know, as Justice fans, we wanted to see something different. So there was a one-day break in between that Reign game and then going up against the Mayhem, a team that feels like we meet every single week. It almost feels like it's our third time playing against the Florida Mayhem. You know, so it's a team that they're familiar with. They did have a little bit of a roster change. Checkmate was the one that was brought into the starting lineup, or as their Twitter calls him, Chadmate. Because, you know, as someone who often misspells stuff on Twitter, I'm going to call out when other people do it as well. So Chadmate for the Florida Mayhem was, Florida Mayhem it was introduced into that lineup. So it was a little bit of a wild card for this Justice team, but it didn't hold them up too long. In fact, they were able to solve a lot of those issues that we saw on Friday, and they were able to bounce back 3-0 in the Florida Mayhem. And it was a very, very impressive win. We're talking on Oasis. You know, point one went back and forth a little bit here and there, but that second point on Oasis, Joey, Florida did not get a single percentage point. It was a clean 100-0 on that second point, and like you could tell the Justice had something special going on yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a Florida team, so back again to take us back just a little bit. In the May Melee, we lost to them 3-1, did not have the opportunity to go to Hawaii as a result. Then from there, we ended up replaying them in June, and we took them down 3-0. Then we played them again this past weekend with a 3-0 victory. So I like the consistency there. Moving from hero bans to out of hero bans, we were still able to face the Florida Mayhem, bringing a lot of that same aggression we saw previously. Oasis was a point when we initially faced them. We lost on that point. Then we eventually took it back in that earlier June matchup, and now again here with a 2-0. Anubis, John. I love the way Justice play Anubis. I feel like the Washington Justice have a really good setup for taking A pretty quickly. They've switched it up a couple times, going left one time, going right another time. This time, they almost went straight up the center, it felt like, just very aggressively taking that first point. Point B always takes a little bit of time for teams to capture. The Justice taking a little bit of time, but in the end, getting the job done there as well. Defensively, we've seen them with some very strong holds. We always bring up on the co-stream the 6-minute hold on, I believe it's Hanamura. Phenomenal hold there. Bebe using the I believe is the Nano and the Ana very, very effectively, not using it every single time. Even when it looks so dire of a situation, they were able to hold on to it. Bebe popping it just when they needed to, getting the job done there. So another really good, really appearance on a double cap map. Volskaya is one. We've had a couple weakness showings. We've also looked very strong on that map throughout as well. So I feel like when we look at the modes, double cap seems to be one of the strengths for the Justice.
Absolutely, and just to come full circle on my point that I wanted to make here with the Reign, Route 66, the escort map for yesterday against Florida, they completed the map. They pushed the cart the distance, and they did so in a very effective manner. They had 2:12 left in the time bank. It was a very effective push. I have no doubt of the Justice's defensive capabilities. We've seen them on assault maps, on capture the point maps, where their defense can hold for what seems like forever. So defense on escort doesn't really bother me too much unless it's Havana. Then it's just a complete nightmare because I don't like that map either.
Or Rialto.
I don't like any of those maps. So, on Route 66, I do believe this was the first time they played on Route 66 this year. They played incredibly well. on defense, they held on that last point. Florida really didn't even come close to it. It was a very, very solid hold. Again, this team and defense is absolutely incredible, and that's what they did to kind of correct those errors that they had from Friday, and had a very strong performance there on Route 66 against the Mayhem.
Absolutely. So a tough loss to the Reign on Friday, but a nice bounce back against the Florida Mayhem on Sunday with that 3-0 victory. With that being said, John, we do have a week ahead. So they play again here in week 13. On July 9th, they're facing off against the London Spitfire at 3 p.m. Eastern time. London not looking so hot in the standings right now. They're at 0-10. Currently sitting in 11th place in the Western Conference. But from our experience, speaking with Grant, speaking with Pre, speaking with Supreme, we know that they're not going to take them lightly. Regardless of the current record of the Spitfire, they're still a professional team. They could still come out and get the job done any single day, any single matchup, any given Sunday, as they say in the world of football. So we know the Justice will come with a game plan for them. I'm personally not as worried about the Spitfire. We are very strong as a team. Again, I do want to see them prepare, and I want them to come forward with a pretty strong game plan. But of the two matchups, this is probably the one I'm least concerned about.
Yeah, Spitfire 0-10. I mean, I have a better record in comp mode in Overwatch than apparently the Spitfire do. So yeah, again, you can't overlook them. They are still pro Overwatch League players, but at the same time, it's like, you shouldn't. I don't think they should spend too much time here. I don't think the Spitfire are going to be an issue. They haven't played well at all this split. The former Season 1 champs are a shell of their former self. It's not even close. So I'm not worried about that. It's the LA Gladiators. That's definitely the one that worries me a little bit more. They're a very, very strong team. I believe they're currently 4th in the overall standings. That is a team, that's going to be up there with the same kind of skill level as the San Francisco Shock. It's going to be the same kind of challenge. That's a team I feel like the Justice are going to prepare for leading up to Saturday's matchup with them on the 10th. That's the one to circle. If you're a Justice fan, you're sitting there going like, oh, a 3 p.m. start on Friday? Why? You know what? You're probably not going to miss too much. But the Saturday match at 6 p.m. against the Gladiators, that's the one you want to circle. That's the one you want to put on your iPhone calendar. That's the one you want to set that reminder for on your alarm. That's the one you want to tune in for. That one is going to really give us a feel of how this team is adjusting to the new meta coming out of the hero bans from the June Joust, how this team is working together, their chemistry, their communication, their practice. This is going to be a great indicator to see where this Justice team stands going into the closing part of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. The LA Gladiators is the match to watch, as John said. And you can catch the co-stream over on the Washington Justice YouTube channel. Just one slight correction there. So in the overall standings, they're actually a little bit lower. They fall right around 7th. In the West standings, however, they are in 4th, which I believe is what you were trying to reference there overall anyway. So yeah, very strong team. And for us, really, the West is what's going to matter the most anyway at this moment. We want to move our way up there. We want to set ourselves up for a good playoff spot, whether that's in the Summer Showdown later down the line in the Countdown Cup or whatever is to come later on. I think this is a good spot to be in. We've seen this team improve. We now don't have hero bans kind of holding us back. We're settling into the new meta. Assassin still looks like an absolute monster on Echo. Decay's good on everything. It feels like our tank line is still performing phenomenally well with Fury and Mag. And again, I don't know if we've hit on it enough so far in today's show. I know we do on the co-streams. Mag and Assassin, John, 2 players coming in, young rookies for this team, absolutely performing. Assassin popping off on that Echo, looking really strong on Sombra as well in earlier weeks. Then you have Mag. His Winston is like it's at least top 2 in almost every single Winston category throughout the Overwatch League. So coming out looking like an absolute monster, going ape on people week after week. So I love to see it. I love how this team is coming together. They have a deep bench as well. We've talked about Jerry. Again, happy birthday, Jerry, out there. You also have a number of other great players like Tuba over there. So I like to see how they continue to develop and how we move from week to week. We just had the Bebe interview as well in our most recent matchup with the Mayhem. And I think one of the cool things that Bebe said, they're just looking forward to the week ahead. We kind of talked a little bit about preparation without giving too much away as far as the team strategy goes. What are they looking for and where does Bebe think the team needs to improve? Bebe said, we just need to be the best. He doesn't care what matchup is coming up, whether it's the Spitfire, whether it's the Gladiators, whether it's the Shock. They just want to be the best. So regardless of what the game plan is, if they continue to improve their individual play, if they continue to improve their teamwork and synergy together, they know that being the best is going to mean beating anyone on any given day, and that's what they're aiming for.
Absolutely. So a lot of great stuff coming up here for the Washington Justice. Again, make sure you catch the official co-streams that yours truly get the honor to host on the official Washington Justice stream there. That's going to be this Friday against the Spitfire, 3 p.m. and this Saturday, 6 p.m. Against the LA Gladiators as well. Joey, let's go ahead and change topics here just a wee bit. We'll go to our over to our other pro team. In fact, the defending champions, Wizards District Gaming of the NBA 2K League. Joey, they're off to a hot start. They have a chance to do something that no other team in the NBA 2K League has done. That's be the team to go back-to-back first. Again, it's only 4 seasons into the league, but still, 2 other teams had a chance to do it. They weren't able to do it, and right now, WizDG, almost said the Justice, WizDG have a chance to do that, and they're off to a hot start, Joey. They're currently 11-3. They're first place in the Eastern Conference. It has been a little bit of a roller coaster, so if you don't mind, Joe, let's do a little TLDR here for everyone real quick. Week 1, they went 3-1. They had 2 matchups against the Celtics crossover and Raptors Uprising, split the series against the Celtics, 2-0 against Raptors. That was the match to watch. That was a semifinal match that had a lot of hype last year in the playoffs. The WizDG took care of the Raptors there. So this was the big circle matchup because the Raptors had an undefeated season. They were 16-0 last year going into the playoffs. WizDG ended that streak. They would go on to win the championship. Week 2 was a bye week. Week 3 was their roughest week. They split the series with the 76ers and the Warriors, 1-1 each, but that's where a big change happened. So this roster is returning 5 of the 6 players from that championship roster. Reese to God was not retained. He was drafted 7th overall in the first round by Lakers Gaming, which means they had to replace him with another player. Enter XO LeBron. He comes in to fill that gap. He plays as a forward. So he comes in and that moved Nudini down from the power forward position up to the shooting guard position. So there's a little bit of changing there on the floor for WizDG. Here against the Warriors, this is when Pat Crossan, the head coach, made a decision. LeBron was pulled from the starting lineup going into game 2. They moved Nudini back down to the power forward position where he played during that championship run, and they put B-Rich in at the shooting guard position. Now, this is interesting because B-Rich is not a shooting guard by trait. He's a point guard. And I had a chance to talk to B-Rich a little bit about it. It's a big difference in the system for WizDG, being the person with the ball, being the shot caller, being the one passing the rock around. That is the point guard. The shooting guard is kind of there to help the point guard out, take those shots when necessary. Kind of definitely a secondary role position in this current setup. So he comes in and he just starts absolutely hitting bombs left and right. He's hitting shots from 37, 38, 39 feet out from the left and right hash. B-Rich is showing up and taking the league by storm. Had an absolutely fantastic game. Stays in the starting lineup, Joey, and he hits his career high the very next week, drops 19 points. I mean, this guy puts in the time and effort into everything he does. JBM is definitely helping him out. Dayfri as well as helping him out. They're spending time in the virtual practice court, working on a shot, working on his time and his positioning, and it's paying off because they have not lost another game since B-Rich has been in the starting lineup. 7 straight wins. The game 2 against Warriors Gaming, 2-0 versus the Nets, 2-0 versus the Raptors again, and then in week 5 before their 4th of July break was a 2-0 win over Grizz Gaming, and they are on fire and the league cannot stop them.
Absolutely, and that's what you expect from a team like this. You're returning your head coach. You're returning a number of the players. They are so talented to begin with. I mean, JBM, the number 1 overall pick, came out and showed exactly why he was that number 1 overall pick last year. Dayfri, coming up from Dallas a couple years ago, he has just cemented himself as one of the best players throughout the league, both on the virtual court and off the virtual court. Is a huge leader coming in for that team as well. I mean, John, this is what I expect of defending champions. I want them to come out here. I want them to run the table for the most part. Sure, you're going to lose a game here and there, but what are you going to learn from that game? What are you going to learn from that loss? What are you going to take away? And so far, as you mentioned, those losses came early on in the season. We've seen the improvements come through. We've seen the lineup shakeups as well. And since then, they've just gotten it together. The team is scoring more than they have before. The team is looking phenomenal defensively. And going into our next segment, we also have a player of the month in Dayfri. Again, a league leader throughout, just in stats as well as just in leadership ability. He is a phenomenal player, a huge gift for WizDG, and he showed us in June why that is the case. 10 games played, an average points per game of 18.9, and an average rebound per game of 10.7. Dayfri is a monster on and off the virtual court, and especially in the paint.
And like those stats are impressive. This man averages a double-double. Okay. He's pretty close to 20 points a game. He's definitely over 10 rebounds per game. A lot of those rebounds tend to be offensive boards also. Those are crucial second chance opportunities for this WizDG team. When you have sharpshooters like JBM, you have Nudini, who has the coin phrase Dini Dagger from the corner, dropping bombs left and right. Now you have B-Rich, a deep threat, dropping threes from 38, 39, 40 feet out. That's massive. Those second chance opportunities, that's how you pull away. That's how you have almost a 30-point win over Raptors Uprising the second time you play them. You just absolutely demolish the team in the paint, and that's what Dayfri does for this team. True leader, like Joey's saying, on and off the court. But one thing these stats don't say about Dayfri is his ability to really get it together and lock it down late in the fourth quarter. There have been so many times it's been a close game with 3 minutes left, and then he just takes over. He's an absolute beast on that baseline down low. No one can go up against him. Statistically, the best center in the league right now is Authentic African from Grizz Gaming. Dayfri shut him down. Absolutely shut him down. He did not get anywhere close to his season average. Dayfri just absolutely had a field day with the guy. Now, don't get me wrong. Authentic African still had a great game. He still had over 10 points. He still had over 10 rebounds. But he's averaging almost 18, 19 rebounds. He is the leader in rebounds for the league. It's very, very impressive. Authentic African having a great year, but Dayfri shut him down. That's been a real key to the success for WizDG, is shutting down those big key players. When you take a look at high scorers like CB13, Kenny Got Work, Chalk, these are all top 10 scorers, top 10 guards in the league. They held them to under their season average every single game. That's hard to do in the 2K League. That's very, very hard to do. And this team has that magic touch on defense to shut them down, and Dayfri is a big key part of that. So well-deserved Player of the Month for June and Player of the Week for Week 5. 2 honors back-to-back for Dayfri.
Yeah, and I think the last thing to touch on there, and you mentioned how well he comes up when it comes into the fourth quarter on the court. The other thing is just the motivation. He's one of those players that's really driven. So once he gets into a momentum streak, and sure, you get the nice little flame going on the court too, but he just gets it going in his heart. He just continues to push forward. And alongside that, that's what motivates teammates. When you're in one of those moments in a tough game, whether it be a close game, whether you might be slightly behind, having one of those players start to pop off and just become electric for the environment is something Dayfri has. And that's just one of those special abilities. Really, it's an off-the-court badge in a sense that he just applies to himself as a player, able to really inspire all these other players. And that gets your JBM to step up. That gets Just Awkward to step up. It inspires the team to get the job done. And in the end, their winning record so far of 11-3 shows that it is just doing that.
Absolutely. So let's just go ahead and take a look for Week 6, which starts this week for the 2K League, coming off of their July 4th week-long break. Joe, I don't know if you're following along on Twitter. B-Rich went down to Florida on a much-deserved vacation. Took his mom down with him as well, which is a smart decision. Mom definitely needs a vacation, so kudos to B-Rich for bringing his mom down to Florida as well. Had a great time down there. I know Dayfri went back to Texas, where his home state. Did some stuff there as well. JBM went back to his home state of New York. So a lot of the players traveling for the holiday, getting to see their families when they don't get a lot of time to do that during the season. So hopefully they are well rested and ready to go, because when they come back, they have 2 teams that are going to be it's going to be an interesting matchup for both of them. So the first one, Pistons GT, coming up on July 8th, 7:45 p.m. tip. It's the one thing I don't like about the 2K League is they are very awkward with their start times. I'm not a big fan of it. But nonetheless, they'll be going up against the Pistons. They'll be the first time playing them this year. Pistons, I actually do not have their standings where they are right now, but it doesn't matter because WizDG is number 1. But the one thing I can tell you, they have a deadly guard duo. Greenlight and Radiant both are averaging over 26 points a game. When you take a look at Greenlight, he's averaging 9.8 assists. Their big man, Ramo, 12.6 rebounds, 1.4 steals, 1.3 steals. He's 13th in the league for steals. That's a pretty impressive, steal category until you look at where WizDG is currently at with a lot of these things too. But that is a deadly guard duo for the Magic. For the Pistons in Greenlight and Radiant. Over 26 points each. Right there, you already know you're going to have to score 52 points or more to beat this team.
And to bring that record to you as well, that is 7-5 where the Pistons GT are currently sitting.
7-5 for Pistons GT. So they're not having the best season, but they are above 500, so they have to be feeling pretty good about themselves as well. They're putting on a very, very good performance so far. But yeah, again, they're going to have to lock down 2 guards. Most of these teams go through 1 guard, mainly their point guard. And if you can shut them down, you shut down the whole team. When you have 2 guards averaging 25 plus points, that's very difficult to slow down, really.
Absolutely. And that other team is Magic Gaming, coming on 7/10, 9 p.m. Eastern time. Looking at their record, John, up there as well, 8-6. So a winning record for their side as well, flirting with 500, but slightly above it. Still nowhere near where WizDG is at 11-3 at the moment. To me, I think that's going to be the closer matchup of the week, but you do analyze this league quite a bit more than I do.
No, you are 100% correct there. And the main thing with Magic Gaming to realize is Reezy's averages 24 points. He's the 7th leading scorer in points per game in the league. Averages 10.8 assists per game. That's good for 4th in the league for assists. Definitely a player they have to watch. Snubby, 15 points per game. He's currently 8th. So that's 2 top 10 scorers for Magic Gaming. Take a look at May. 15.3 points, 11.8 rebounds, 1.8 blocks. He's 6th in the league when it comes to blocks per game. That is going to be a good matchup between him and Dayfri. Dayfri, who actually leads the league in blocks with 2.2, has been able to show that he can rise to the occasion. He's not afraid of anyone. Like, he'll let you know he's there, and you're going to have a hard time down low in the baseline in the lane trying to collect those rebounds, trying to clean the glass. Dayfri is not going to let you do it. If you're able to pull down rebounds, you got lucky. Dayfri is going to lock you down. But the Magic is definitely going to be the game to watch, if you will, this week. If you had to pick one out of those 2, that's definitely going to be the closer matchup. And then just real quick, currently for WizDG, JBM's the leading scorer with 25 points per game and 10.4 assists per game. He is the 6th in the league for assists per game. Dayfri, 18.5 points, 10 rebounds, 1.8 steals, 2.2 blocks. My man is absolutely killing it. Nudini, 8.2 points. Again, with Nudini, you have to realize he did start the season at shooting guard, so these numbers are going to be skewed a little bit just because there is a big position change here and a different role he's playing. And then Just Awkward, who is one of the best defensive players in the league. I don't care who you are. Stats speak everything. This man comes up with the clutch steals, clutch turnovers at the best times for WizDG, really shutting down the other team. He's averaging 7.3 points, 1.8 steals. He's actually tied with Dayfri, 8th overall for steals per game. So you have 2 top 10 steal players in the league playing for you on defense. Again, another big key to success. Just Awkward really shutting it down as well for WizDG. I mean, this team is absolutely stacked, and they're playing out of their mind right now.
Absolutely. And speaking of DMV esports and playing out of their mind, John, the last one we have to touch on today is DC United over in the eMLS. That scene is looking quite good in favor of DMV as well. KingCJ0 over there absolutely popping off. KingCJ looking so good in the eMLS. He did end up bowing out in the quarterfinals up against Godfather from LA Galaxy, but in the end, he still found a way to qualify for the FIFA eWorld Cup, making himself a champion in my eyes over here for the DMV scene. The only American to qualify so far, and he's also on the US FIFA eNations Cup team with Fiddle, which is awesome as well. I mean, John, when we look at the MLS scene, when we look at eMLS and FIFA just in general being the biggest sports game worldwide with soccer and football, depending what country you're in, because I'm sure as we're being a DC-centric podcast here, I'm sure we'll have people tuning in from all over the world, of course. I love this. I think this is great. I think the investment that DC United has put into the eMLS has grown over the last couple of years. Bringing in a player like KingCJ has ended up working out very well for them, qualifying here again for the FIFA eWorld Cup. Unfortunately, not going quite as far as we expected in the eMLS, but he's just improving season over season, and he is definitely a force to be reckoned with in that league.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to look ahead to August to the Nations Cup here. Take a look at this group he's going to be playing in, Joey. He's going to be going up against the likeness of Germany, Israel, Belgium, Argentina, and Indonesia. I mean, this group, if there had to be a group of death, now again, kind of judging based upon how their national men's team does, not even esports related. This would be labeled as a group of death right now. Like if you were to look at this and you saw, the US, Germany, Belgium, and Argentina in there, that would be absolutely out of your mind. Even in FIFA for the E-Nations Cup, this is still a very, very solid roster, or solid group, I should say. And KingCJ and Fiddle are going to have, a lot of work going ahead for them. But I think this is a winnable group for them. And I think that the U.S. could make it out of the group draw.
Yeah, and no hate to U.S. soccer, the actual sport itself, but I like our chances a lot better here in the eFIFA World Cup.
I like it.
My faith in KingCJ feels a lot more comfortable than the U.S. national team at the moment, up against the likes of something like Germany, Belgium. I think, who else did you say in there? There's one other powerhouse that you had listed. But yeah, I definitely like the chances much more here with KingCJ. So we'll see, and we'll continue to follow that journey here on Game on DC, both on Twitter at Game on DC, as well as here on the show.
Absolutely, Joey. I mean, it's done. The return is finished now. We have covered everything we wanted to cover here today. It's been absolutely fantastic being back here on Game on DC. Granted, this one ran a little bit longer than anticipated, but that's just because we had to kind of do a little housekeeping at the beginning, Joey. But feeling pretty good after that first show back, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, guys. So these are typically going to be a little bit shorter. The big thing being we touched on a bunch of stuff at the beginning. The other thing being here, we did a full recap of the season for both the Justice and WizDG. That's not going to happen every single week. You got your recap here. From here on out, we're going to look at reviews and previews as well as interview segments here and there. That will make shows a little bit longer depending on what the interview ends up being like. Or as we said earlier, maybe we end up splitting that. The other thing is, guys, you can catch this VOD on Twitch, on all those pond catchers that John mentioned. And when we put it on YouTube, I'll go ahead and break down the segments as well. I know some of you guys follow everyone in the DMV as far as the esports scenes go. Others just tune in for the Justice or maybe tune in for WizDG. So we'll go ahead and break those down so you guys can jump to whatever segment you want to on the YouTube video as well.
All right, that will do it for the return of Game on DC. If you enjoy listening to Game on DC, we want to hear from you. Leave us a review on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. In fact, we love to hear from everyone in the DMV so much. There's multiple ways that you can reach out to us. Before we cover that, don't forget to subscribe here on Twitch so you are aware of when the next Game on DC is ready and live for your DMV breakdown. Don't forget to subscribe to us on social media as well. Joey, where can our listeners go to follow along with Game on DC?
Absolutely, John. They can head over to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, maybe even some other social platforms down the road and find us at Game on DC. In addition to that, you can follow us on YouTube and Twitch. We don't have a fancy YouTube link just yet, but we'll make sure to post that up on the link tree on Twitter. You can find us on Twitch at twitch.tv/OTN Media. Last but not least, guys, when we ask questions on the show, when you want to give us comments, questions, anything like that, feel free to comment on any of the GoDC posts on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, or use hashtag GoDC. We'll be checking that hashtag and we'll do contests using that hashtag, as well as interview questions and such on that as well.
All right, so this is the first of many Game on DC, so make sure you mark your calendar for next Monday, July 12th, as we continue to cover the news here in the DMV. Do your ears and eyes a favor, hit that sub button here on Twitch to know when the next episode of Game on DC is ready for your viewing and listening pleasures. We'll catch you all on Monday. Enjoy the rest of your week. And Joey, we're going to try this together here. And as always,
Game on, DC.